The rain began to fall the same morning. Marcus Ellis carried the last cardboard box out of his office. It wasn't just a job he had lost. It was the future he had spent 15 years building, the pride he had fought for as a black father raising his little daughter alone, and the belief that hard work always led to security. As he stood in the parking lot with his daughter Ava asleep in the back seat, the security badge still warm in his hand before he dropped it into the return box. He had no idea that the man whose signature ended his career would one day walk into the tiny, forgotten diner Marcus was about to risk everything to save. And neither of them knew that one ordinary meal would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives, that everyone deserves a second chance, and that hope is always worth fighting for, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more heartwarming stories that remind us humanity is still alive. Marcus had never imagined becoming unemployed at 39. Every promotion had been earned through long nights, impossible deadlines, and missed weekends. After his wife passed away from a sudden illness 6 years earlier, work became more than a paycheck. It became survival. Every dollar paid for Ava's school supplies, ballet lessons, and the tiny apartment, where they learned to laugh again after unimaginable grief. His co-workers admired his determination, but very few knew what it meant to come home every evening and become both mother and father to a little girl still learning how to smile without asking when mommy was coming back. Then the company announced restructuring. Executives flew in from headquarters with polished speeches about efficiency and future growth. Marcus believed his record would protect him. Instead, he received a 10-minute meeting, a carefully rehearsed apology, and a severance package that looked generous until he calculated rent, groceries, and insurance. The CEO had approved hundreds of layoffs without ever meeting most of the people affected. Marcus remembered seeing the executive's photograph in the annual report, a confident smile, an expensive suit, someone who would never understand what one signature could destroy. Weeks turned into months, job applications disappeared into silence. Savings slowly vanished. Marcus sold his watch, canceled subscriptions, and quietly skipped meals, so Ava could keep enjoying her favorite cereal each morning. Despite everything, he never let his daughter see despair. Every bedtime story ended with hope, because he refused to let disappointment become the lesson she carried into adulthood. One afternoon, while driving through an older neighborhood, Marcus noticed an abandoned diner with faded red paint and cracked windows. A weathered sign still read, "Rose's Family Diner," though half the letters had fallen away. Something about the place refused to let him keep driving. He parked, looked through the dusty glass, and imagined families sharing breakfast, strangers becoming friends over coffee, and lonely people finding warmth on cold mornings. The building seemed forgotten, but it also seemed full of possibility. The owner, an elderly widow named Helen, had tried selling the property for years. Most buyers wanted to demolish it and build something modern. Marcus wanted to restore it. Helen saw sincerity in his eyes and accepted a payment plan that made almost no financial sense, but made perfect emotional sense. She believed the diner deserved someone who would love it instead of replacing it. The first months were brutal. Marcus repaired broken booths himself after watching online tutorials late into the night. Ava spent weekends painting flower pots for the windows and writing cheerful messages on a chalkboard. Outside the entrance, friends from church donated old furniture. Neighbors volunteered to clean. Slowly, the forgotten building became something beautiful again. It wasn't perfect. The floors creaked and the coffee machine sometimes refused to cooperate. But customers noticed something more important than polished countertops. They noticed heart. Word spread because Marcus treated every customer like family. Elderly widows who had no one to eat with found companionship. Truck drivers discovered hot meals served with genuine smiles. Teenagers doing homework after school were never rushed away. If someone couldn't afford breakfast, Marcus quietly paid the difference without embarrassing them. He knew exactly how pride felt when money disappeared. The diner became more than a business. It became a place where kindness was served alongside every plate. Ava greeted regular customers by name, carrying napkins that were often bigger than her hands. Watching his daughter laugh between tables reminded Marcus that success was no longer measured by job titles or corporate bonuses. It was measured by the peace returning to their lives. Nearly a year after opening, a black luxury sedan pulled into the parking lot during a rainy afternoon. The man stepping out wore a tailored coat, but exhaustion seemed heavier than the expensive fabric. Marcus recognized him instantly, before the man even removed his sunglasses. It was Daniel Whitmore, the CEO whose decision had cost Marcus everything. Daniel didn't recognize Marcus at first. He simply ordered coffee and homemade chicken soup before sitting alone in the corner. His face looked older than the magazine photographs. The confidence had been replaced by something quieter, almost lonely. Marcus considered asking him to leave. For a brief moment, years of frustration rose inside him. Then he remembered every lesson he had tried to teach Ava about choosing compassion over bitterness. Marcus served the meal himself. As Daniel slowly looked around the diner, he noticed family photographs decorating the walls, handwritten thank you notes from customers, and a community bulletin board covered with offers to help neighbors in need. There was something deeply comforting about the place that expensive restaurants never managed to create. When he complimented the food, Marcus finally introduced himself. Recognition spread across Daniel's face, like a wave of regret. The silence between them carried the weight of lost careers, broken expectations, and decisions that could never be undone. Daniel admitted that the layoffs had haunted him. Investors had demanded drastic cuts, and while he had signed the documents, he had never truly understood the human cost. Months later, his own board forced him out after profits continued falling, despite the restructuring. His marriage collapsed under the pressure. His adult son stopped returning calls. Success disappeared almost as quickly as it had arrived. Listening to him didn't erase Marcus's pain. It didn't return the sleepless nights or refill the savings account that had vanished. But for the first time, Marcus saw not a powerful executive, but another broken human being carrying invisible scars. Over the following weeks, Daniel returned often, not because of guilt alone, but because the diner reminded him of the life he had sacrificed while chasing endless growth charts and quarterly earnings. He watched Marcus greet every customer with patience. He saw Ava hugging elderly regulars as though they were grandparents. He realized leadership had nothing to do with corner offices and everything to do with making people feel seen. Inspired by what he witnessed, Daniel quietly began using his business connections to help the diner. Local suppliers offered better prices. Community organizations hosted events there. Food critics discovered the little restaurant through unexpected recommendations. Business steadily improved, not because of marketing tricks, but because people could feel the genuine love inside its walls. One evening, Marcus found Helen sitting in her favorite booth with tears in her eyes. She whispered that the diner finally felt alive again, exactly as her late husband had dreamed decades earlier. For Marcus, those words meant more than any promotion he had ever received. Years later, Rose's Family Diner became a local landmark known for its generosity. Every Thanksgiving, hundreds of free meals were served to families facing hardship. Scholarship funds were created for local students. Employees were treated like relatives instead of numbers on payroll reports. Marcus never forgot what unemployment had felt like, and he built a business where dignity mattered as much as profit. Daniel continued volunteering behind the scenes, finding redemption not through wealth, but through service. The friendship between two men whose lives had once collided through loss became proof that forgiveness does not erase the past. It transforms the future. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and let us know in the comments, because your support helps us continue sharing stories that inspire compassion around the world. Special request: please comment with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe one act of compassion can change someone's life forever. As the diner lights glowed warmly each evening, Marcus often watched Ava laughing with customers who had become family. He realized the worst day of his life had quietly become the beginning of his greatest blessing. Losing the career he thought defined him had led him toward a purpose far greater than a paycheck. The man who once believed everything had been taken away eventually discovered that hope sometimes arrives disguised as heartbreak, and that the greatest victories are not won in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the quiet moments when one person chooses kindness over resentment. In a world that often rewards power, Marcus proved that compassion leaves the deepest legacy, reminding everyone who walked through those diner doors that second chances are real. Forgiveness is possible, and love shared with strangers always finds its way back home.